Welcome to the school committee meeting of January 28th, 2025. This hybrid meeting is being recorded and may be accessed by WebEx. The meeting link is on the calendar at burlington.org. All board members are here tonight, so we do not need roll call votes. If connectivity is lost on WebEx, and we do have a quorum in person tonight, so the meeting will continue if that should happen. The first item, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item is the approval of the warrant. Is there a motion to approve the warrant?
Second.
Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? That's 500. Next item is the approval of the minutes of 1/14/25.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? That's 500. The next item is public participation. Is there anyone online? There's no one in the room.
No hands.
No hands?
No hands.
Okay. Next item, information and reports, our student report.
I don't have much to say because we didn't have our plenary session. It was canceled the week before midterms and was supposed to be this week, but I think it's going to be next week. So far, I just have updates on the Senior Student Council. We're planning a Valentine's Day like candygrams, which are going to be like $2, and we're going to figure out a delivery system for them, and they're going to be sold at lunches. And we're getting fundraising money for prom from like different places. We've been emailing different places like Tavern in the Square, like True North, places like that. And yeah, midterms week went well. Everyone felt like it was a vacation because we got to leave early. Yeah, that's it so far.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments? Nice job, as usual. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Because before the meeting, we took the picture, and we got to have you in it, which is really what we wanted. So thank you. Okay, the next item, subcommittee reports.
Madam Chair, just a quick question. Do you have any news for us for CETA?
No.
No, nothing about next year yet?
Oh, colleges.
I was going to ask that.
Oh, yeah.
Been going well so far. No rejections yet. Yeah, a lot of scholarship money. I'm happy.
Congratulations.
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 Very happy
Tell us
for
where
you.
you pick when you pick.
Yes.
Well. Okay, thank you.
Are you here for public participation?
Yeah.
Okay, you can come on up, because we just,
Oh, I'm just here to observe, just listen.
oh, just to watch?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, the next item is subcommittee. Out-of-state travel?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Subcommittee
Oh,
reports.
subcommittee reports.
Yeah, I thought Jeremy might have a subcommittee report.
So work for Marshall Simons is ongoing. I'm going to defer to Ms. Nevoychek because she chaired the last meeting as I was unavailable.
So we met with Conservation Commission last week and discussed what any issues that they felt might come up arise as far as the plot plan for the field. And so we've invited them to continue to attend our meetings and ask questions as they come up. The meeting went well, and I know that Nezra is working hard to complete the notice of intent, which they should be out in about 2 weeks for review to the, I'm sorry, where is it?
Conservation
Commission. Yeah, so Conservation Commission. So all is going well. Our next meeting is coming up at the beginning of February on February 4th at 6 p.m.
Only addition would be is we're working on the letter to abutters to inform them of the project, and kind of we're at the point now where we have enough detail we can share and bring them in.
Okay. Any other subcommittee reports? Guess not. Ways and Means, nope. Anyone online?
No.
Cheyenne's not here, which is unusual, but it's probably because they don't have anything for us right now. Okay. Other announcements? Eric, you got any announcements?
No, it's town meeting week, so you all are in the middle of that, so nothing right now. Thank you.
All right. Learning, equity, and thriving, out-of-state travel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The wrestling team has a tournament and bringing some wrestlers to Concord, New Hampshire, I think. I should check. On February 1st, again, recommended the committee vote to allow the wrestling team to attend the Capital City Classic Wrestling Tournament in Concord, New Hampshire.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? It's 500. Next item, EHS Program of Studies.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the second reading. Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Adubato went over the suggested course additions and some course eliminations. There really wasn't any major change in the language. What Mr. Sullivan did say is probably next month, we're going to bring some policy language to the committee. We believe we need to create or alter a local policy to define the competency determination for a high school diploma since the state eliminated MCAS. Mark's been working with Middlesex League principals to make sure that we're sort of all asking for asking for the same credit completion, and there's no real major outlier. I think there'll be some language, but we want to protect 2025 graduates, so we do believe it's going to require some school committee language, but we want to make sure we give you the language ahead of time, so we're not ready to do that. Again, that's not connected to the program of studies, but this won't be the last time that you're going to be sort of talking about the high school program this year, and then I think we're going to have more detailed conversations given the governor's commitment to put together a statewide committee on what will define a high school diploma in Massachusetts. So I think that's going to be ongoing. So my recommendation is that you approve the program of studies as presented.
Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the BHS Program of Studies. This is a second reading. Are there any questions, any discussion? Jeremy?
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Alyssa?
Just to confirm, you said there's no change. I went kind of briefly through, but there's no real changes from last time.
Correct.
Jeremy?
No, just the only thing we kind of talked about last meeting is, drivers for codifying need for these programs. We didn't talk about the cost burden, if there is any labor burdens for that. And then, again, I feel like we should be putting more emphasis on the core competencies and delivering those versus adding additional electives. But that's really my only comment for that.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, hearing no further comments, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favor of the BHS Program of Studies as submitted?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Is there
Nay.
anyone opposed? You're an aye?
I'm a nay.
You're a nay?
Yes.
Okay, so it's 410. The next item on our agenda is a school climate survey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have with us Mrs. Christine Concession, so if you would mind joining us. Chrissy oversees the school climate survey. This is our second year using the Thought Exchange software that we've made available. the school climate information that we receive is actually very important to us, and it's something we spend a lot of time with, both at the school level and at the district level. And so I think, Chrissy, you go over who participated in sort of the process, so I won't sort of take any more time. But this is a significant, this feedback is significant to us, is really what I wanted to tell the committee. And the feedback we get is important, but the fact that we're asking is also important. So I just want to thank everyone who participated. So, and thank Chrissy for all her effort to compile this data and present it to you.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me. Have my computer because there's lots of notes and things to go over, but here to present on the school climate survey that we administered this year. So we gave the timeline for administration the same as last year. So the survey opened on Monday, December 2nd, and was open through Friday, December 20th. It was offered to all staff, all parents and guardians, and all students in grades 4 through 12. The survey questions remain the same. We've been using the school survey questions from the Positive Behavioral Intervention and Support Center, which is a center that's funded by the U.S. Department of Education in elementary and secondary education. And information regarding the survey, including the ability for parents to opt their children out, was communicated via Parent Square. The survey does take several demographics into account, including race and ethnicity, IEP services or AP honors classes, gender and gender identity, grade level, school attending, and we are able to disaggregate the data by those different demographics. All of the questions do give participants the option to answer with prefer not to answer for their demographic questions to assure that they can remain anonymous. This year for survey participation, we had exactly 554 parent and guardian responses. The survey was completed in 12 different languages by our parents and guardians, and we had responses from parents from pre-K students all the way through 12th grade. In our BPS staff, we had 297 staff responses, which represented all of our staff, again, from pre-K all the way up through 12th grade, educators, and a wide range of participants in regards to the years of service with BPS, their role, whether they were an educator, a specialist, an administrator, and the primary grades that they taught. In elementary, in elementary, our 4th and 5th graders, we had 490 participants. We had students participate in the survey in both English and Spanish, and we had participation from all 4 elementary schools. And then for our secondary, which is our 6 through 12, we had 1,378 participants. We actually had, those were the ones that completed the full survey, but we actually had 1,463 who responded. They left some questions unanswered. And the survey was completed in 11 different languages by our 6 through 12 students. And participants ranged from grades 6 through 12. Just for reference, I am going to do a lot of comparative data from last year. We saw small decreases in participation rates in every single area, including parents, guardians, staff, elementary, and secondary. Secondary was within about 5 students. So continuing to work to engage the community and engage everyone in the survey. So these are the 2024-2025 favorability scores. So a favorability score is an average of several questions on a Likert scale where individuals answered in a favorable manner, either an agree or strongly agree. Each of the surveys has different topics or themes, so you'll notice that for the topics or themes under the parent-guardian survey included institutional environment, interpersonal relationships, parent involvement, school safety, and teaching and learning. And those are your favorability scores for this year. The PBS staff favorability scores included parent involvement, peer and adult relationships, physical environment, school safety, staff connectedness, or staff connections, and structures for learning. And we are going to look at the comparative analysis between 2023 and 2024 in upcoming slides. So with the elementary, it's only an 11-question survey, so there are no themes or topics. So these are just some examples of the actual questions that are asked and the favorability score for the specific question. So my school wants me to do well was 90% favorable. Students treat each other well was 57% favorable. And we're actually going to look at every single score coming up.
Can I ask a question?
Do you have a question? Yeah.
I just want to clarify, when you say elementary and secondary, these are the students, not like the parents of elementary
Correct.
students? Okay.
Correct. Sorry. Yes, these are the students themselves. So the 4th and 5th graders, and then secondary is the students 6 through 12. So secondary, students 6 through 12, does have themes because it's a longer survey, which includes adult social support, cultural acceptance, order and discipline, peer social support, physical environment, school connectedness, school safety, and social and civic learning. So as we start to trying to give you some sense of how we're doing and how things are progressing. This is our 3rd year of doing the same school climate survey. It's our 2nd year of using Thought Exchange, where we can really look at the data in a much more concise longitudinal manner. So the first column, where it just says school climate survey, is the 2023. Learning as I'm going, I should date them so that as we start to pull graphs out. And the 2024 is the next column. So as you'll see from the parent and guardian survey, 4 of our themes, our subcategories, actually increased. And we had 1 subcategory of teaching and learning decrease by 1 percentage point. When we look at our staff favorability scores, we had 1 score decrease by 1 percentage point, which was our staff connections. We had 4 scores that increased, or themes, I should say, that increased, and we had 1 that remained the same from the previous year. These are all of the 11 questions that the students, the elementary students, answer. And again, you can see the 2023 scores and the 2024 scores. So we had 8 questions where students answered more favorably this year. We had 2 that decreased, and we had 1 that remained consistent. And we're going to get into every single survey in a little bit more detail, but I just wanted to share some comparative analysis with you right at the beginning. And then our secondary favorability scores, we had 6 themes or scores that increased, and we had 1 score that did decrease by 6 percentage points, and you're going to see specifically the question that really caused that that discrepancy, and something we probably need to dig in as a district in a little bit in the future. So in looking at our parent-guardian survey, similar to last year, I did some glows and some grows. School safety for our parents and guardians was rated the highest overall score. Those scores were, in the questions around school safety, remained consistent across grades, race, programming. 2 of those questions were clear strengths for us, students' safety in the building and traveling to and from the building. And this is very consistent with the survey from last year. This was a strength for us last year as well. You can also see some of the highest individual scores by questions for students. So attending parent-teacher conferences was in 91%. Having their student feel safe going to and from school was 91. Feeling comfortable talking to teachers at my student school was 87. And teachers keeping their classrooms clean and organized was 86. I also this year included some of the highest percentage increase by individual questions. So we saw a 7% increase in the question, I'm actively involved in activities at my student's school. And we saw a 6% increase in I frequently volunteer or help on special projects at my student's school. And again, just an overall, we went up in 5 out of the 6 topics or sub-themes for the parent-guardian school climate survey. Some areas for growth. Again, same as last year, but I'm going to preface this by showing a chart. The lowest overall score was in parent involvement, where 2 questions really led to these results. Actively involved in activities at my student's school, and I frequently volunteer. These scores did vary rather significantly based on grade level and race, but we're going to look a little bit further at some comparative data, because I do want to note some of the work that we did around parent involvement. Our communication satisfaction differed by demographics. So although it was rated overall at 73%, the results did vary based on participants, school, grade level, and our lowest individual scores by questions, as you can see, go back to the volunteering on special projects, textbooks, which is a question that's part of the PBIS, which may not be very relevant in today's society, or at least in the Burlington world, but we've kept it in there. All students are treated fairly at my student's school was a 64%, and I'm actively involved in activities. I did want to highlight, so this was the highest theme or topic for parents and guardians. And again, earlier you saw the favorability score, which is the overall topic. These are the actual questions that fall under school safety. So what you see here is that from 2023 to 2024, we saw, around a 1% to 3% increase in some of the questions specific to school safety. One stayed equal or stagnant, and we did see a 1% decrease. As we do this survey year after year, we'll be able to see more longitudinal data of how we are doing, hopefully continuing on the green in the increase. But this is an area that the district has really focused on in the last couple of years, including putting together a district-wide school safety committee, which does a lot of work with our school staff and administrators on some of the logistical matters of school safety. But also, we talk about proactive and preventative measures we're putting in place for students. We've continued a really strong partnership with the Burlington Police Department and continue to work to educate our staff and provide opportunities for drills and other things. So just wanted to highlight some really strong growth here from 2023 to 2024. I also wanted to highlight, because although it remains the lowest theme or subtopic, parent involvement, we actually saw some tremendous growth from 2023 to 2024. Some from 1 to 7% of an increase, which is really wonderful. And I wanted to highlight this because this was one of the themes that we picked after last year's school climate survey to really focus on within the Wellness Committee. The Wellness Committee did a lot of work. We actually did a follow-up engagement with parents about what does engagement mean to you, what does involvement mean to you, because it might mean different things than the questions we're asking in the survey, and took those results and really tried to lean into that to offer more opportunities for engagement for families. So some of examples of what we've been doing this year, we're offering bi-monthly lunch and learns, virtual lunch and learns. One's coming up tomorrow if you want to join me, 12 to 1, on social, emotional, mental health supports. And those have been well attended, around 15 to 20 parents per lunch and learn. We've continued with our curriculum nights. We've worked on increasing parent communication. We've hired and have a full-time family and community engagement specialist. And I think that we've just really tried to be more visible in the community as a whole, as staff, as administrators. So we saw really some wonderful increases. Again, although still our lowest theme or topic from the Parent Guardian Survey, really seeing some growth in this area. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the BPS staff. So some of the GLOWs, highest overall score was in staff connections, which is their perception to the degree which they fit in or are part of their school community. The scores in this subcategory stayed consistent across years of experience, race. There was some variability when looking at different grades or levels taught. One question remained a clear strength. I get along well with other staff members at my school, and this was the same strength area from our 2023 survey for staff. High individual scores by questions. No surprise here. I get along well with other staff members at 93%. They feel safe entering and leaving their buildings at 85%. And teachers at my school work hard to make sure that students do well at 82%. We saw percentage increases here, so a 13% increase in students in my school treat each other with respect. So a large jump and increase there. We saw another 13% increase in if I report unsafe or dangerous behaviors, I can be sure the problem will be taken care of. And a 12% increase in students at my school get along well with one another. So some really big increases in this area from the staff perception, which is really positive. And again, 4 out of the 5 overall subtopics increased. When looking at some areas of growth from the staff perspective, the lowest overall score was in parent involvement, which matches the parent involvement perception. This I want to preface that it was very specific to the grade level. When we really toggled down to where did this come into play, and we've had lots of conversation at the Wellness Committee meetings around this, we see parent engagement or the perception of parent engagement start to drop off in our secondary level. And some of that seems relatively age appropriate and normal, and it really is based on the questions that are part of that subtopic. And then you'll notice some of the lowest individual scores by question. Again, frequently volunteer or help on special projects. I think that 29% is very reflective of answers from grades 6 through 12. Students in my school demonstrate behaviors that allow teachers to teach, and students would help each other if they were bullied or if I report unsafe or dangerous behaviors. But I, again, wanted to provide you with some comparative analysis from last year. So these are the lowest scores, so the ones I just referenced, the specific questions. And as you can see from 2023 to 2024, we are making incremental growth even in our lowest scores or our areas of need or growth. So we saw, several percentage increase, even an 11% increase in students at my school demonstrate behaviors that allow teachers to teach and students to learn. So although areas we still need to focus on, we are heading in the right direction. And then looking at our elementary, and as a reminder, there's no themes or subtopics because it's an 11-question survey. Some of the highest individual scores by question for this year were my school wants me to do well, with 90% of students answering that in a favorable manner. There's an adult at my school who will help me if I need it, 89%, and teachers treat me with respect, which remained relatively consistent across grades and demographics. We saw a 5% or 6% increase in students treat each other well, and a 5% increase in I like school, and a 4% increase in good behavior is noticed at my school. Some areas of growth from elementary, again, some of the lowest individual scores by question, which we're going to comparatively look at next, is students in my class behave so that teachers can teach, which was 44%. Students treat each other well, 57%. I like school, 60%. And good behavior is noticed in my school, 67%. Those scores did vary by school attending and the grade level, so we're looking at, K through 5. And we also noticed that students who self-identified as Black or African American or Asian had lower scores in all of the questions, with the exceptions of I feel like I do well in school. 79% of students who are self-identified as Asian were above the mean in that. I like school. Respectively 66% and 64% of Black and African students and Asian students. That was above the mean of that question. And good behavior is noticed at my school, which was 69% for students who self-identified as Asian. I just wanted to also note that although there's some differences in the percentage, none were statistically significant. And then doing, again, some comparative analysis of our lowest scores, you can see here that we had upwards trajectory in every single one of our lowest scores from 2023 to 2024. So saw great percentage increases from 1% to 6% in these areas. I think there's a strong correlation to the initiatives and the work that we're doing in this district around belonging and purpose and supporting students, that we're seeing this growth specifically in our elementary schools. In our secondary schools, so students rated the highest overall score in social and civic learning. This is the same as last year. This was their highest subtopic from last year as well. Scores were pretty consistent across grades, demographics, and 2 questions from this subtopic were actually our highest individual score questions for students in grades 6 through 12. As you can see, the high individual scores by question, students stated, I treat other students fairly with 92% favorability. I believe in helping others with 89%. Doing the right thing is important to me with 88%. I know a student at my school that I can talk to if I need help was an 85%, and I show courtesy to other students was 85. We saw a 10% increase in my school has high standards for achievement. We saw an 8% increase in my school has clear rules for behavior, and a 6% increase in teachers treat all students fairly, and 5% in all students are treated fairly by the adults in my school. Some areas for growth is students rated the lowest overall scores in school connectedness, which is their perception to the degree in which they feel like they fit or are part of the school. These did vary based on demographics, including their grade level, race, gender, and gender identity. And this year, our 8th graders overall struggled in this subcategory the most, which is interesting to look at. Some of our lowest individual scores by questions, and we're going to look at these again comparative to 2023. Our most days I look forward to going to school was 30%. Students in my school take pride in keeping our school building, bathrooms, classrooms, lockers in good shape and condition was 33. I like school was 43, and students are frequently recognized for good behavior was 49. These are the same lowest scores by question as the 2023 survey. So when we looked comparatively from 2023 to 2024, you'll notice that we have some positives, some really positive gains in some of the questions, and we have a pretty significant drop in one specific question. This is our highest percentage drop in any question across the survey for any survey, whether it was parent, guardian, staff, secondary, and elementary. So we're going to need to spend some time exploring why this is happening, or what's connected to this survey and that question. So the question specifically was, most days I look forward to going to school. We had a 67% favorability rating in 2023, and we have a 30% favorability rating in 2024. So it is going to be an area that we're going to spend some time really trying to investigate and figure out what's leading to that and contributing to that from a student perspective.
You said that was centered in the 8th grade population?
This is for all 6th through 12th grade. These are, but we do have the ability to see specifically which grades had the highest percentage drop in the secondary realm. Okay. So this year, we also did a qualitative data analysis. So one of the wonderful aspects of Thought Exchange is the ability for parents and guardians, staff, and students to write in specific answers. That was feedback from the 2022 survey. Was they wish they could give more personalized feedback. So after each subtopic or question, there is a prompt, a dive deeper prompt to say, what would help you feel more connected at school? What would help you feel more safe at school? So did some work. Huge thanks to everyone who helped with this, because it was a team effort in doing the qualitative data analysis. But the first thing we looked at was doing an executive summary. So this was looking specifically at the school personnel and the secondary student surveys from 2023 and 2024, and really trying to focus on areas where we're finding success and positive development over that 2-year period. There is a comparison table by theme. So we looked at, it's very small, I'm sorry. We looked at a sense of connection and belonging, teacher support and engagement, extracurricular activities, school safety, and peer relationships. And the reasons those were pulled out was those were the highest frequency noted topics from the qualitative responses. And what we can see is in regards to change in opinions, we saw positive shifts here. So in school connectedness, we saw a shift towards stronger connections and a sense of belonging amongst our students and what they're reporting. For teacher support and engagement, we had improved perception of teachers and student and teacher-student relationships. Extracurricular activities, students noted a continuation of expanding extracurricular activities and satisfaction with participation and options. School safety, again, maintained as one of our highlights, enhanced safety protocols, better maintained facilities, alleviated some of the previous concerns around school safety, and peer relationships noted a cultural shift towards more respectful and supportive interactions, reducing some of the negative behaviors from previous noted surveys. So from the conclusion of the executive summary, efforts to foster a sense of connection and belonging have been successful. Students are feeling more integrated and supported. Teacher-student relationships have contributed to more engaging and effective learning environments. And the expansion and our continued expansion of extracurricular activities and school safety work has a positive impact on students. I also wanted to look specifically on the 3 district initiatives that were part of our strategic 3-year plan. So learning, equity, and thriving. So these definitions are pulled out of our 3-year plan. The first one is learning, which is empowering all students through rigorous, dynamic, and relevant curriculum designed to include academic, social, emotional, and psychological supports to ensure student growth and achievement. And when looking at the qualitative feedback that we got from here, our areas of success were we saw enhanced student engagement and enjoyment. And I don't need to read these verbatim, but I wanted to highlight some of the actual quotes that we pulled out. So, I like school just how it is. I love this school. I feel connected and a part of my school community. We had improved learning experiences. Students appreciated more hands-on activities, projects, group work. Supportive teaching staff was another area of success. Again, some of the quotes that led to this. Teachers help me more. My teachers support me. And addressing individual learning needs was another thing that was pulled out as an area of success. So there was notes that there's been evidence of teachers adapting to diverse learning styles, with students mentioning personalized help and opportunities to engage in subjects they're interested in. So when looking at this from 2023 to 2024 and looking at our qualitative data, we see an increased satisfaction with the curriculum and enhanced academic support. Now, when looking at the district initiative of equity, which is defined in our 3-year strategic plan as educate and allow all learners to be their authentic self so they attain high academic standards and outcomes by creating challenging learning environments where they feel they truly belong because they see representations of themselves in the curricula and their teachers and support staff. We saw areas of success in inclusive and welcoming environments. So again, just some personalized quotes that came out. I feel connected with the people at my school. Everyone is so different, and I think I am doing well now. We saw representation in curriculum and staff, so some students noted appreciation for learning about different cultures and seeing diversity in their learning materials. And another area of success was fair treatment and respect. So again, some quotes that were pulled out are teachers are being fair, everyone is nice to each other. So in looking at our changes from 23 to 24, we did see an improved sense of belonging and a greater cultural awareness from our qualitative data analysis. And then the final district initiative of thriving, which is defined again as strengthening BPS culture through relationships between and amongst students, staff, family, and the Burlington community to ensure all health, safety, security, and happiness of all, to ensure the health, safety, security, and happiness of all learners and adults. Some of the areas of success that were pulled out were a positive school culture. So again, some quotes. I love my school experience. The school has a great community. We're prevalent in the 2024 feedback. Safety and well-being was also noted as an increase. Students stating they feel safe at school and enjoy being there. We saw strengthened relationships, so the student-staff connection was noted several times. My teachers care about me. Teachers are more understanding. And from family engagement, families or parents and guardians expressed satisfaction with communication and involvement opportunities, noting effective updates and feeling welcomed at school events. So changes that we saw from 2023 to 2024 were enhanced communication and increased participation, which I think you saw as part of our quantitative analysis. I also wanted to look at social emotional learning, not just because that's me, but because we did spend a lot of time on that during 2023, and I've continued that initiative into this year, and all of our 2023 professional development was focused on social emotional learning for our staff, and we rolled out a whole new curriculum. Next year, we will look at this year's theme of professional development and do some qualitative analysis around that. But here is your definition of SEL, which I think you guys have heard from me many, many times. But the areas of success is we saw development of SEL skills, so specific quotes. Teachers help me when I'm feeling down. I feel happy at school. There's positive feedback on forming supportive relationships, where students noted everyone is kind. I have good friends at school. And a promotion of healthy identities, where students felt that they could be themselves at school. So direct quotes, I can be myself here and I feel accepted. So changes from 2023 to 2024 noted improved SEL programming and a greater emphasis on well-being. And finally, and then I'll try to answer any question you may have. Our next steps are all of the school climate data has been shared with school-based administrators. They're going through it right now. There is a wealth of data to look at from a school perspective, a district perspective, elementary, secondary. So we are reviewing all of that. We're going to take some time to reflect and think about areas where we saw wonderful growth and how to promote and continue that growth, and areas where we did see a decline or remain stagnant, and we want to see growth, and then we are going to work to develop actionable plans and steps to address areas, so that next year when I come back, we will continue to see hopefully upward movement in our longitudinal charts. And that's everything.
Well, that was a lot of information. Anyone have any comments or questions or discussion? Megan?
Yeah, I have a question. Thank you. That was an excellent presentation. My question centers around like the deeper dive that you were talking about. And the question, I like school, or most days I look forward to going to school. What is the deeper dive going to look like?
For what would we do as a deeper dive, or what was the actual deeper dive question?
What does that process look like?
So last year, what the process looked like from an individual school basis was the school principals took some time to really look at their school data, and then shared that data with their school-based staff. And then specifically in our secondary schools, we then spent a lot of staff meeting time doing PLCs and thinking about areas of growth and how we think we need to address those as a staff. I think that from that percentage decrease with students, it might be beneficial, and we did this from a parent-guardian perspective last year, to follow up with more detailed questions around, we noticed this, can you give us some more information as to why there may have been this shift in feeling or expression, or how coming to school has been. Doing a follow-up engagement with the parents last year really highlighted for us exactly what we needed to do to promote actionable steps, instead of trying to guess what everyone's involvement and engagement means so many different things to so many different people. My definition of being involved in my child's education might be very different than your definition of being involved. So I think giving the students the opportunity to tell us would be really helpful as well.
I agree. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I had two questions, and one's close to kind of what you were just talking about, because I was curious when you said that the parents had very different definitions of involvement, and I
Yes.
just wanted to find out what a couple of the examples were that you had that you thought were kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of outliers.
Yeah, I mean, I think from that second engagement, we had some who, and I think, again, it varies by household, but we had some who say engagement in my child's education or schooling for me is participating and going to their athletic events and being in the stands. We had some who expressed engagement and involvement for me is having access to my child's Aspen account and being able to check how they're doing academically. We had some who maybe took the more traditional route in regards to the PBIS survey of engagement as being able to communicate and come into my child's school and visit with teachers and staff. So it varied. We heard loud and clear that there needed to be different offerings in regards to hours of opportunities, hence we implemented the Lunch and Learn, a virtual opportunity for parents to engage with school-based staff. So thus far, we've done one with Ms. Wojtasek on family and community engagement. We have done one with Ms. Angelo on Parent Square tips and tricks. I am coming up this week. We are doing one with our school resource officers on social media and tips and tricks for students on social media. So that was a clear request from parents, was more variation in the ability to engage virtually and different times as well.
Okay. And then the second question I had was, do we share any of these results with the parents? I mean, since they participated, because I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in here,
Yeah.
as far as on the positive side, and it'd be kind of nice to have people see that. So I
Well,
don't
this
know
is
how
a
it
public
gets
document
communicated.
now,
Yeah,
so
I
we
know,
can
but-
certainly, well, in what format are you saying?
Well, some,
I'm sure
I don't know, maybe
everyone's
sending
tuned in
something
tonight
out
to
in
see me.
Parent Square. I really don't know. I mean, because
line outside waiting
yeah,
for
well, we've all. I'm just saying, we've all kind of know that we say go to the website and check it out, and very few people do it. So, any way that we can distribute bits and pieces of the real positive stuff. I mean, I keep talking about, communicating all the positive things, that happen with our students. That it would be nice to. There's no local newspaper anymore. Print, like we've got BCAT, we've got Nikki, we've got, things like that. But it's just kind of some way to get it out to people to see that there's a lot of good stuff happening.
Through the chair, we can probably work with Thought Exchange, and between a bunch of us put together, you have an executive summary, but more of a, again, I don't want it to be 4 pages long. People won't read 4 pages, but maybe something that's bulleted, we have a 2-page highlights or something like that we can work to put out, I think, and maybe send that out over Parent Square.
Yeah.
I think something.
Melissa?
So I was going to ask, and you don't have to come back, maybe send it to Dr. Conti, but in a month, let's say, because last year we picked the parental involvement, right? We're going to through the wellness committee, but once you decide kind of a high level next steps, I think that's an important piece. Just the four categories, we're going to focus on these 4, and here's some actions that we're going to take. I think that helps people, want to take the survey again next year when they know action will get taken, and maybe that's a good opportunity for some one-pager. Here's some high-level themes that we heard through the survey, and here's the actions that we're going to take from the survey. You can bring that back.
Yeah, and again, through the chair, Ms. Pissardo, what I would say is, we're trying not to have the school climate survey sort of stand by itself, so it will be connected to the district improvement plan that you'll vote on and see in the fall. It's not by accident that it's with my sort of mid-cycle evaluation. It's something that I look at pretty carefully, so it should be connected to sort of what we're talking about. If you want me to focus on something else, then we should sort of discuss that, but we're trying to get you feedback on areas. The learning, equity, and thriving, again, is not by accident. That's something that we're trying to bring down. So we can absolutely bring back suggested actions, but you shouldn't just see the actions once. You should see them then sort of connected through our through our district initiatives, through our evaluations, through our conversations too. So we can absolutely, again, look at doing that, and we need to start to rethink again our district plan moving forward. So we'll start to do that too.
Anyone else? You did a really nice job with that. And I think it's very meaningful to delve so deeply into the social, emotional aspects of students' well-being, how they feel about school. And the one thing that kind of makes me feel bad is I wish all of the kids loved going to school, you know? I wish they loved it. And it's funny if you think back to COVID. The kids missed it so much. They were devastated they didn't have school to go to. And I think many of them have now forgotten that time and maybe aren't quite as appreciative of it as they were back then.
Yeah.
But,
And we talked about that. That was such a significant drop that I really want to do a follow-up and see. I don't trust that
Yeah.
data point because
Yeah, I don't either.
it's so sort of out of whack. I'm not saying it couldn't drop like that, but I think it really
it doesn't make sense to me
work
either.
us.
I think that's why I was pulling on the thread to figure out if there's a specific grade level, it could be targeted around one center of gravity versus across the board.
Yeah, exactly. One incident, one event, and we'll look at that.
And just remember,
they did.
it's one moment in time, right?
Exactly.
So
If you'd done the survey 2 days later or
It could
or an
have,
hour
you know,
later,
Or
yeah.
on field day.
on field day.
Exactly.
Or crazy pajama day or something.
Was there a grade? I mean, did you look? Oh, no.
I can. It varies by grade, the decrease, but we can get that granular and look at, because that question it stands out
Yeah.
significantly to me, to look at all of the different demographics. So we can look by grade, was it specific or more dramatic in certain grades, by demographic, by levels. We can look into all of that and really try to dig deep into exactly maybe who we should be targeting to ask for more information. Because if it really was 2 specific grades that really were that high percentage of decrease, then getting some more detailed information from them would be probably the most helpful.
And Madam Chair, too, again, the question we always get is, is this good? And what does a percentage mean? And it's really hard for us to look at that comparatively, I guess, to other districts. Not everyone is doing this particular survey. I think it's really important that we ask the questions. As we do it multiple years, we'll see trends. I also think it's really important for us to look at sort of where we're spending our time and resources, and are we seeing some sort of impact with the people who are experiencing that. And it's in this business and in education, it's rarely causal. So it's really, for me to say, we pull this lever and these things happen, but you want to see trends. You want to see positive trends. So clearly, in the last couple of years, we've just adopted a pre-K to 8 consistent social emotional curriculum. We've dedicated time, which is a resource in schools, to that program. You would hope to see sort of how students treat each other, how they feel respected by teachers. You would hope to see that shouldn't be trending down. So again, I think I can't tell you that's the causal reason, but we are spending resources on that, so we would hope that we would see sort of that happen. Elementary principals do a lot with positive behavioral, I always forget the IS, Chrissy.
Interventions in sports.
Intervention and supports, that PBIS that they talk about. Again, those are celebrating positive student behaviors, and so we should see, again, we should see that students should get that message, I guess is what I'm saying. So if I were in your seat, I would try to say, okay, kind of big buckets, where are we focusing, and then are you seeing sort of trends in that? Communication with parents. We spent a lot of time on Parent Square. That's a relatively new adoption for us still. Happy with the participation. Chrissy mentioned the multiple languages that we got responses in, because you might also say, is this only from one sort of demographic? And I think we're really trying to broaden that demographic. And so again, is that causal because of Parent Square, or even Thought Exchange, which does some translations as well? We are having students take this in Spanish for some of our Spanish-speaking students. So again, I think it's important to ask, and we are talking with other districts. We are certainly willing to share this. What we've done with our youth risk behavior survey is we are collaborating with Middlesex League, so there'll be 10 districts that are sort of participating in the same way, so we'll have some comparative data to share with you. And I'm not saying everyone is going to adopt the Burlington School Climate Survey, but I'm sure in any school climate survey, there's a question that says, if they're willing to share, do I like coming to school? I mean, that would sort of be typical, and maybe we can start to look at that because, again, there's a relative question is 70% good or bad? And I'm saying I think it's hard for us to look at that, but a positive trend is better than a negative trend.
I just don't believe the answer. I think it means something like, I don't like to get up in the morning, therefore I don't like going to school.
It very well might be, and that very well might be when we do a deeper dive with the students, that it's more, the surveys at the beginning of the winter, it's
Again,
darker.
7 or 8 years ago, we
Yep.
changed the high school start time from 7:30 to 8:30 purposely. It would have been great to have this type of data right prior to that and
Yeah,
after
and then
that. And we did
after.
sort of, we did a different type of survey and sort of had some positive results. We've looked at sort of other measures, but, Ms. Monaco, you're right. It might be,
It's
again,
kind of the thing to say, when you're a kid. It's like, do you like going to school? No, I want to stay home. I want to play on my what do you call it?
But what
Tablet.
changed from 2023 to 2024? It's not like that long
The
ago.
kids.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, but it's almost an opportunity, I think, for us to say, hey, what happened? And the students aren't bashful about sort of sharing, and then it's just up to us to listen. So I think that would be something that we can say. I will say, Chrissy puts this together in such a manageable way. Principals do take this very seriously, and they people put in a lot of hard work and effort, and conveying some positive impact of that is really important to motivate people. So I think we do that. And then I think a lot of people are interested in areas where they can improve, and I think this helps provide specificity to that. And I think that's, I really want to end where I started. It's just important that we ask these questions and that we're asking for feedback. And Ms. Massardo, you're right. We have to encourage more people to participate, and I think we need to do that by saying we're spending a significant amount of time analyzing their responses. It does impact district visioning and district planning, and ultimately, I think, how district resources are going to be channeled and focused. So that's kind of what I would encourage people to please participate. And next December, we're going to have another opportunity, and we'll have 3 years then of data to build on.
Well, thank you very much for a great presentation. We'll be interested to hear what you find out.
Yes.
If you tap, 10 or 15 kids on the shoulder and, how did you answer this question? Anyway, you really did a nice job, and we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, just one initial comment, pulling on what Dr. Conti was saying, just, I'd like to see some of that direct correlation back to the 3-year district improvement plan. So if we're seeing, like the students noted, my instructional needs are being met, we're getting some more individual focus. Does that translate into seeing improvement in a metric in the district improvement plan, or would that correlate to, improvement in some area or some growth that we can kind of look at where not really codifying what we're doing, but hey, we've expended this resource and the positive effect translates to these 2 or 3 areas, just drawing a more direct correlation to how it's affecting the district improvement plan, not only that, but then possibly test scores with MCAS too. Again, kind of try to draw those parallels to see, where we are putting the resources and, how that's translating into growth, because it sounds like we're getting there. It's just, how do we put all the pieces together to illustrate that?
I think we are trying to put the pieces together, and I would say the climate survey, for me, almost comes before the sort of the test score outcomes.
Sure.
Because what they would say, sort of, again, you can look at all the different research you want, but from a, student has to feel safe before they can sort of learn, right? So what we are seeing is evidence of safety, which I think is really positive. The most dynamic thing, or the important thing for me, one of the most important things, which I'm going to maybe steal from the next agenda item, is people care about my learning, right? Hugely important. So we could have the best curriculum in the world, but if kids don't think the adults here are interested and concerned about their learning, we're not going to get anywhere. So I think there's some foundational good news, and then we have to hopefully see the result, the correlation to higher growth, and whatever that growth is leading to the academic performance that we want to see. And I think we can start to do some of that work once we have a couple years under, but it's why it's so important that we ask these questions and then really encourage people to participate.
Say hello to your other half and your children for us.
I will. I'm sure they're watching on TV. Thank you all.
Good night.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Superintendent mid-cycle review update.
Yeah, and again, you all know, have heard the, Madam Chair, thank you, by the way, the district objectives of learning, equity, and thriving. You're sort of sick of hearing those things, but it's a way for us to organize a very complex organization with, children from 3 to 18 sort of trying to move through the system. So I just wanted to spend a couple minutes talking about, again, it's not an accident that we did the mid-cycle with the school climate, because it's something that I look at actually very carefully as well. And so a couple of things that I wanted to highlight, I just mentioned to Mr. Brooks, I really think they're the antecedents to learning, and I think that's really sort of what my focus is. As I always tell you, any sort of evaluation of a superintendent is really the reflection of the work of others. So there are incredible people doing this work in the district, and so please, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm responsible for kids being here on time. That's just silly for me to say. But we need to look at the results of that, and I'm certainly accountable for areas that we need to improve on. And I just want to, the results that I'm seeing, I'm recognizing there's talented people and a lot of hard work behind those numbers. So when looking at the secondary students, teachers treat me with respect. We had sort of almost over, an 84% positive in that. And again, across a very diverse student body, again, I would argue, I think very successfully, that if kids don't feel respected, they're not going to participate, engage, and learn. So really felt good about that. Students at the school are treated fairly by other students regardless of race, ethnicity, and culture. Again, we were in the over close to 65% in that survey. And again, this is secondary. Walking around our middle school, walking around our high school, we've put a lot of time and effort and energy into that, making sure students are also treating themselves well. And then safety, I think one of the things that we always talk about is safety. And that was a significantly, I think, positive response from secondary, elementary, parents, and staff. So was really pleased about the safety. Again, that would fall under the thriving part of the community. We're really trying to build on that. And then, again, for one of my sort of points of pride is I know an adult at school that I can talk with if I need help. And that was, again, close to 70% there. So, again, room for improvement, absolutely, but I think we're moving in the right direction. And that is just so critical. That was secondary. For the faculty, again, I think that they really enjoy working together. And again, we try to create working conditions where people can be effective. And so I think in any of your jobs, I think the environments that are creative are critical for the adults. And I think we got some positive feedback there. There was some instructional materials was around 60% that they felt their instructional materials are up to date and in good condition. We're sort of at the end of our 5-year computer cycle, and there's a bunch of things there, but we probably want to tease that out a little bit, see if there are other things that are missing. From a budgetary perspective, I think the principals have told you we've sort of level funded supplies and materials for the last 4 or 5 years, and I think that's catching up to us now. We're going to have to increase as those costs go up. I think teachers are feeling more pressure to go back to the old days where they were trying to purchase materials on their own, which we sort of said we don't want that to happen here. So it's going to be something that we, again, connect to some of our budget. But I think we have some things to untangle there, and with staff, and I'm just trying to do this quickly because you've heard so much of this already, but parents, again, safety was great for me, and I liked that academic standards and achievement, that was over 80% as well. So I think we need to expect a lot. We need to make sure that kids are growing and moving, and that teachers work hard to ensure student success. Again, that was around 80% as well. So, and why not 100? Again, I would say we're never going to get 100, and I would sort of, any organization is going to have some challenges, and we can always do better, which is what I would say, but I think we're moving in the right direction. Again, students feel safe going to and from school. I think this committee invests a whole lot in transportation. We talk about that a lot. We put in some tracking software, again, for timing and convenience, but I also think there's a safety component to that, and Bob knows we spent a lot of time adjusting bus stops, and so I'm saying you would hope that you would get a favorable response to some of those efforts, and so I think that was, again, not causal, but again, indication of the right stuff. And then the elementary kids, I love their feedback. I just want them to have the best day ever. As I tell you, that's my sort of big measure. But again, my school wants me to do well. At 90% is just awesome. Again, reflective of just incredible environments. So, and again, by the efforts of principals, teachers, support staff, instructional assistants, learning can't take place without those positive relationships. And I think there's evidence that we spend a lot of time and resources doing that, and I think that's important. And again, I'm really curious to start as we sort of do. We do have the resources to look at our sort of growth scores, and it would be great to start, again, doing some work. Again, it's kind of messy statistically. I can never tell you, again, we do this and this happens, but I think we should, if kids are getting to school, feeling safe, feeling like they have good relationships, feel like they have adults rooting for them, if we provide them the appropriate curriculum at the sort of in a personalized way with the supports that they need, we should see learning happen. I mean, that's really what we should see. We've also had some building projects sort of underway, which you've all been a part of. We have a curriculum adoption process that Lisa is championing that has taken sort of a lot of time. We're in the middle of budget. Nicole is going to have a document in front of all of us relatively soon, given the guidelines that have been provided. I'm really proud of the Pathways work that the high school has done and Ms. Terrell has done. I think the recognition by the governor of a former student of Harris was something that when you do my work, it makes you feel like it's worthwhile every once in a while. That was one of those moments for me. And again, the school safety, we have a tabletop coming up this Thursday, and I can't stress enough, Chrissy mentioned the partnership with the Burlington Police. They're just incredible partners in making sure that our community is feeling safe. I think Pat is bringing a bunch of resource officers from other districts to do the tabletop with us, just to see if they can, some of that mojo can rub off on the work that they're doing. What?
What's a tabletop?
What's a tabletop? Mr. Brooks, what's
Pretend-
that's what they call it?
Yeah, like
Run
a
through a
pretend
scenario
exercise.
and, go through all the responses, and these are the things we do, and this is how we do it. These are the conditions we expect. These are the behaviors we expect if these things happen. So it's just kind of just, in the military, we call it a rock drill. You put a map out on the table. I'm doing this. This is going to happen. Then they're going to do this, and just kind of walk through it step by step. So, in the event something were had to have happened, we've at least rehearsed it and people
Do you have
understand what the rules
little
are.
mini people and little mini police officers?
No, we did it in a gym, and I was the mini person moving myself.
Mini?
No, it's,
Yeah.
Did you remind me, I forgot to ask the one question, you were talking about safety. I was surprised that there were teachers that didn't feel safe leaving the building. Was that the question? Leaving the premises or leaving, I can't,
No, I have that one here, too.
You're never getting 100% on any of these questions.
no, but it was, I was surprised it was the percent that it wasn't more in the 90s, like, is it because they're,
Well, if we didn't salt that day, sometimes,
I'm just,
The lighting around the high school sometimes.
well, that's what I'm saying, is it because you're the creep factor, because you're late leaving the building, I get that.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
faculty,
85%.
85.
Was 85?
I feel safe when entering and leaving my school building.
Right. So what's the 15%? What is, again, is it lighting? Is it something? I was
They were in a
curious.
bad mood.
I mean, I complain at work because the lights dim in the bathroom at 4 o'clock, and there are a lot of us that stay later than that, and it's creepy. So,
Well, hopefully, then they'll ask you at some point, and you can give that
Right.
feedback.
That's
and
what
they
I'm
can address
saying.
it.
So I'm just
saying that's
curious,
that's the
why
sort
it's
of-
not in the
that's
90s,
the idea.
just curious.
So, as the budget starts to come together, we'll, again, talk about priorities. We're going to try to continue to keep the learning, equity, and thriving. I'm not a big believer in sort of jumping around, and I think those buckets are big enough for us to really include everything. I think the district that has 10 areas of focus doesn't focus on anything, so we're going to continue to sort of try to narrow that focus with the work that we're doing. The evaluation training that Lisa is doing with all staff, again, are focused in those 3 areas as well. And so I'm hoping that you'll see, if you don't see it now, the alignment of our efforts under those umbrellas, and we'll continue to make progress. If, again, we can always improve, I'm always going to be harder on myself than sort of anyone else. So if you have critical feedback, again, we're going to untangle some of the responses that weren't really what we were hoping for or looking for, and really try to put an effort in those areas. But if there's an area that I'm not focusing on that you'd like, we can certainly have those conversations, moving forward. I really do love what I do, and I say Burlington is just such a great place to do it. So I really want to say thank you for this opportunity, and I want to, again, make sure that I say it's the efforts of my staff that allow all of this to happen. So they are just an incredible group, and I think I'm just fortunate to work with them. So that's my mid-cycle.
Anybody got any questions for Dr. Conti's mid-cycle report? Jeremy, you've got to have a question, come on.
Nothing right now jumps out at me, but again, I think we touched on all the right things, right? The budget alignment with resources where we're putting them, why we're putting them there, and, where we're seeing our growths based on the investment we've had over the last few years would be something I'd be keenly interested in.
Anybody? Melissa? No? Megan? I think you're doing a good job.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Almost as good as Mrs. Concession.
Almost. I understand that.
That was a joke.
I'll agree to that.
All right, we can move on to Assistant Superintendent's report. Dr. Chen.
Yes, at this point in time, I'm just going to give you a brief update of where we are in the process. I'll have more information at our next meeting, but we're in the process, and this is very exciting, and I want to thank Bonnie Nichols for all of her hard work in organizing this. But we've had the opportunity to attend some school visits when it comes to our taking a look at Wit and Wisdom and also Amplify or CKLA. We had the opportunity to visit Pentucket Regional School District to see how they have implemented Wit and Wisdom. There will be a separate visit for just the middle school, again with Pentucket. That's going to be on February 6th. We're also, this Friday, January 31st, we're going to be heading out to Hamilton Wentham to visit that school and to see how they have implemented a CKLA in K through 5 and Amplify. We're also going to be going on a trip to Bedford as well too, and taking a look at how they have implemented Amplify CKLA. And then we're going to go visit North Hanover with Lexington to take a look at Wit and Wisdom. And so I think that a lot of these particular trips, and we're trying to set up one with reading to look at how they're also doing Amplify ELA in the middle school. I think that they've been very helpful for the teachers to see how teachers themselves have implemented this. And I think this is a very important part of the process, as teachers can ask other teachers the questions that are very impactful to them. And again, really want to thank Dr. Bonnie Nichols, and also Sean Musselman will be accompanying us in all of the trips as well too, and some of the principals, and also the volunteers of the teachers in each of the schools joining. So we really want to thank that going on. We also are working pretty nicely with, when it comes to the Algebra 1 committee. We took a look at our pathways. We've taken a look at the numbers. We've pulled some numbers to see if we were to offer the grade 7 and grade 8 integrated courses, and also the grade 8 and Algebra 1 combined courses, what the numbers would be. It looks like we have a robust number. So we're in the midst right now of these groups formulating specific criteria as to who's going to be, what those criteria is, and what those particular course descriptions are going to look like. And we're also taking a look at what this pathway might also look like at the high school. And then with regard, Madam Chair, as you had asked Dr. Conti, Mark Sullivan, and myself to take a look at what's going on with high school math. We've been delving into the data of that. I shall have more data. I've looked at the first marking period. There is, it is like a normal bell curve. There are A's, B's, C's, some D's, and some F's, but we're in the process of closing the grades at the high school. So we're in the process of looking at that, but I'll have more specific data for you. But I do know, and taking a look at the curriculum, and also taking a look at what some of the reflective practices are, I do know that math teachers in that department also reflect with the kids on after the test grade questions, and some of the questions themselves are, were there any surprises on the assessments? I really think that that's a nice way to reflect with kids, right? And they'll take that information, and they'll also readjust some of their practices. So that's what I'm seeing. But you will have a more finalized report with more specific data in the next one, because by then, all the grades will have closed. That's where we are.
Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we including any classroom observation in any of this?
Classroom observations continue to occur with the principal. And I would say at the same time, one of the things that we also work with Dr. Bill Lupini on is making sure that when we look at specific, when it's across the board of administrators, that we're looking and having the same conversations. So we have done, they have done this prior to COVID, but this will be our second year in which, for instance, we will work together as an administrative team, in which we will ask volunteers of teachers, if we can go into the classrooms and take a look, and then we'll come out and debrief together. And we do that just to make sure that regardless of who's taking a look at the class, we're all seeing the same thing. That's going to continue.
Jeremy.
Is that effort expanding to some of the other science areas as well? Because I've received some traffic that similar happenings are in the math department are happening in other departments, notably science.
I will say that happens. We observe classrooms at all different levels. So that is at the elementary, that's at the middle school, and at the high school. And it's not just one particular subject. But we put it out there for, first of all, we ask teachers, because it can be quite a bit to have 6 or 7 administrators from different, not from your particular school, coming in just to observe you, to make sure that what we're seeing is in collaboration with one another of the specific feedback we're given across K through 12 to our teachers. But I will say that at each of the levels of the schools, what they will do, and I know this at a high school, is they do have learning rounds. What they do is they do look at a specific area, and then they have the administrative team will go around and they will observe for certain things, and they'll also then debrief with one another. That is occurring.
Yeah, and then I think I'd just like to kind of echo my call previous to, bringing it back to something this committee can affect is, is it a personnel problem? Is it a resource problem? Or is it a delivery issue that we can help solve for you? Because I don't think there's much we can do besides that.
Right.
So I'd be interested to hear that feedback still, too.
Okay.
Anyone else? Specifically on the topic of the complaints that we got, I think when there are as many as we've collectively gotten, we need to look at it. We need to look at it carefully. I have sent some ideas to Dr. Conti, which I'm sure he can share with you, that I've gotten from parents, things like having more gradable options for the kids. And I'm sure you're doing a good job looking into it. We look forward to some kind of an update as to how it's progressing.
Yeah, you will receive an update at the next school committee meeting, just because I don't have the numbers right now, only because right now they're in the process of inputting the grades. I can give you the older numbers, but that's not going to be as helpful as, just to see the particular growth of what's going on to ensure there's consistency.
Right. The subjects we're talking about are very difficult subjects. For some students, they come very easy, and other students, it's not so easy. And so to have a range of ways to show how you are doing or how you're learning, like problem sets or things that can be graded aside from just tests. There's a lot that can be done, so I'm sure you're working on it.
We are, and as we bring this to you, we want to make sure we have a common set of facts, because I think that's really important to start with, and so I think that's really what Lisa and my job will be to sort of show you what those facts are. I think there have been some claims made publicly that are just not true, and I think we need to make sure that we're addressing the right problem. So I think that's really where our focus is going to be. And again, if it's a resource problem, if it's something that we can fix at this level or address at this level, we will certainly bring that forward to you. And I think that just want to make sure that we are trying to personalize the experience, Mrs. Monaco, so all kids can be successful, and then support students through that journey multiple ways. So I think that's what we are trying to do. And then some of this is going to be beyond our control, but I just want to make sure that we're sort of talking about what's actually happening.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I know I had separate conversations with each of you, and I think one of them that I had asked and you and I talked about was the testing and who's writing the exams, and just clarification on what the process is for that. If it's the teacher you have who's writing it, is it a shared experience? I mean, I just want people to understand how those exams are written. And then I think the other thing we talked about was, and you were talking about, people learn differently, and people were talking about access to books and the whole book, not just a section from the book or whatever. And I know you'll probably address that as well, but those two things are on my mind.
Again, I can address that right now. Any students who wants a printed textbook can have access to a printed textbook. We have the entire textbook digitally. We have it also in print form. So they just need to speak to their teacher, and we will sort of make that happen. And again, I think the principal will handle that situation with the department head and the teacher. So
Perfect.
we don't even need to debate that. Just we will give the student the resources that they need.
Megan?
Yeah, thank you. How are students made aware that they can get digital version of the textbook, or, so,
Again, I...
Not aware, so
Well,
how are we gonna make them
if
aware?
I'm not, can't maybe answer that directly. We can certainly have the teachers make that offer, but I think if a child needs support in a class, they should speak to their teacher first, and I haven't met a teacher yet, especially in Burlington, that really isn't willing to do their best to help a child be successful. So that's what I would say, and if any teacher is feeling, boy, I can't give out a textbook, then we'll certainly eliminate that as a fear that they have. And I even reassured the principal, if we have to buy more textbooks, we will certainly make that happen. That, to me, the material stuff is easier to solve, and I think we just need to look at, again, Lisa's really digging into this. We will have some information, and we'll try to present it in a way that is relevant to the school committee and relevant to changes that sort of we can discuss and we can make. And we're not gonna, we can't teach the class, we can't grade the class, we can't do that stuff, and I believe our teachers are doing a good job in that. Typically, when there are issues like this, there are communication issues that we have to sort of clean up, and if there are resource issues, we have to make sure that the resources are being provided, and I think that's what we'll look at.
Okay, good job, Lisa. Thank you very much for the update. And now, moving on to Facilities and Finance, Fox Hill School Building Committee update. Melissa, got anything for us?
Fox Hill is still moving pretty steadily. We're working on the site plan. Trying to even think if we had a meeting between the last school committee. We're down to one a month at this point. Don't think we have any new updates on Fox Hill.
Eric?
No, I think we've had, I think we're getting closer to providing an updated playground model. I think one of the things that Ms. Massardo, that sort of you and I had discussed at that subcommittee was making sure that the full committee sees sort of the whole package, and if we have to make reductions based on sort of when we get prices back, we can make sort of the reductions at that time, but not try to limit creativity too far ahead of time. I'm not saying present a $10 million playground design, but I'm also saying that we're not going to skimp on the number of swings. If that's the issue that the full committee decides to make, then we can make that decision at a future date. And I'm not sure I'm explaining it well, but I don't want to sort of nickel and dime the design when we're spending a lot of money, and there may be, if the parking lot, dumb example, comes in at a lower price, then maybe we can afford that extra swing. And I'm saying we have those decisions to make yet, but I just want to make sure the full committee is seeing everything. But I was very happy with some of the adjustments that were being made, and we have lots of decisions yet to make based on the bid prices that we get eventually.
Yeah, that's probably the one thing worth noting, is that we're very close. I believe the end of February is the next cost estimate.
Yeah.
So that's what they're finalizing, a lot of the outdoor site plan items to go. There'll still be one more, so there'll be two more cost estimates before the end of the year, but we'll get a cost estimate. It goes to a consultant of Doran Whittier, and it goes to a consultant of Danisco to cost estimate, and then they get merged to make sure to see where we are against our committed budget. And then, again, they can start moving things around and reallocating, but then there was still, I believe, another estimate in August. So to Dr. Conti's point, the playground is slightly over budget as of now, but things can change internally within the project as it goes forward. But yeah, that's the next milestone.
Okay. Burlington High School Building Committee. Catherine?
Yep. So last night, we did an update to town meeting, showed them their latest video got a lot of positive feedback on that. I do encourage people to visit the bhsbuildingproject.com website. We've updated, listening to people about trying to make it easier to find things, so just to check it out and look at what we've changed. We actually added a community engagement tab yesterday, so it's easier to see, how many times we've engaged with the community and what's coming up next. The next event is the Community Forum, which will be on February 12th, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at the BHS auditorium here. We hope to see as many people as we can there to ask questions, give ideas, et cetera. Our next meeting is the day after, on February 13th at 6:30 p.m. And again, we encourage you to share your thoughts on this thought exchange.
Madam Chair, just to, again, stress how important the public forum is. The regular public meetings of the High School Building Committee and the Fox Hill Building Committee are public meetings, but they're business meetings, just like this meeting. It was a business meeting with an agenda. There is always public comment and welcome, but it's not meant to be a forum, and people sometimes get frustrated and say they can't sort of express themselves fully or sort of ask the questions that they want. The forum is the time and place to do that. That's a sort of meeting where the agenda is to hear from folks, and we may not be able to answer every question, but at least we'll get the questions and then we can answer them at a later date if we don't have the answers. So if you're asking what makes the forum different than a regular high school building committee meeting, is it's really a meeting that is designed to listen, is really what the meeting is designed for.
And I did want to say that any questions that we've had on the Contact Us link, that we are also putting all of those responses onto the website so people can see. So again, I highly encourage people to go check that out, maybe prior to asking a question, because your question already might be answered and on the website.
Okay.
Are we allowing virtual questions on that meeting?
No.
No?
No. That I didn't set anything up like that.
Yeah, it'll be on,
It's on BCAT.
through the chair, yeah, it'll be broadcast on BCAT, but it won't be set up through WebEx.
Okay, so no
So,
chat
in
questions.
person, recorded, and then on BCAT.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bottom line, come in person. Okay, transportation update. Anything, Bob?
I'm crossing my fingers, but no, right now, there's nothing to update.
I have an update because Nicole and I talked earlier, Bob. No, I'm hoping it's good news. So, right. So,
Is-
well, the good news is I think we found some vans because we had a warrant article
May of '22.
May of '22.
Do we still have it?
We do.
It's encumbered, yeah.
And we just had supply chain issues for a while, and
We've gone out to bid now, so bid opening is next Tuesday at 1.
And what's the difference? So why didn't we go to bid 2 years ago? Is typically we'd buy them off a state bid list? Is
Yeah, so we were purchasing off of, we're attempting to purchase off of state bid, which is typically like the easiest route. But we've, just kept running into supply chain issues where they're revoking the VIN numbers that they had
There
reserved
weren't
for
any
us.
vans.
So we had to find an alternate route to purchase, so hopefully we'll get.
And Bob, you found
back.
you found a dealer that had vans for someone else, but the order was canceled, but they were the design that we needed with the safety features that we needed, but they're not on the state bid list, so in order for us to go out and get them, then we have to do a public bid. So you guys are chasing.
All right. Well, it sounds like you've done
Chasing
a
down
good
vans, so
good
not
job.
sort of the big, but that'll be, those vans are actually going to be, are critically needed for sort of smaller trips and for some of the other specialized opportunities that we have for students. So again, it's been a couple years, but we will fulfill the warrant, I think, finally.
Okay.
Through the chair, thanks for your persistence and staying on top of it and finding alternate ways.
So I am right with fingers crossed, because we are hoping for positive news come next week, so.
Okay, let us know.
Through the chair, just one question. So Bob, the full-time live tracking's gone live, it's good, well. I know we had a few hiccups at first. Have we seen a drop in the number of tickets coming in to affect that?
So I can report that I have 0 tickets, definitely in the past week, and 0 requests for transportation changes or stops to the routes, or additional requests to features or features not working. I've also been in communication with the bus company in particular, and I do have reports that, that the app is working as expected to. We also have brought on our clerical staff, members in the main offices, onto the Go Beacon portal, where they can request video and other features, from the bus company themselves. And I can report that I've heard positive feedback from that feature, so.
Okay, good. We can move on to long-term capital plan discussion.
Again, I can take this one. So while I don't have it in front of me, I can pull it up and share it with you. I did not include it in your packet. What I have done and what you have seen prior to is taking the previous year's 10-year plan, input the data into that. There's been some suggestions to maybe change some dates on whether, let's say, the high school, when that money would be requested, a feasibility study, let's say, on Pine Glen. But like I said, the first 10 years looks vaguely similar, if not exactly the same, as the 10-year capital plan with the town. After that 10-year plan, what happens for me is anything that has a 10-year life cycle, let's say like a turf field, is reflected in the 10 years later. Something such as a roof that has a 25-year warranty from the purchase date was included then. Where it gets a little bit wary for me is, when do I say a bathroom is going to need to be replaced, right? So we have some historical data, but it doesn't necessarily fall exactly in line. So I feel like I'm more comfortable with a 10-year plan with the request from the committee to look at and review a 20-year plan. I am seeking some advice on, will this be an internal document? Will this replace the 10-year capital plan? Because the town does not want to replace the 10-year capital plan, so this would be some supplemental document for them.
The feedback I've gotten from Ways and Means is that they want 10 years, that they feel that it kind of loses a lot of meaning beyond 10 years.
I've had similar conversations with Ways and Means, and I've had no one from Ways and Means in my conversations express the value of a 20-year plan. More the focus is on 10. I don't want to discredit any value that it brings to this committee, so again, I have it, and again, we can definitely use it. The thing is, I'm looking to seek input from you all at the value you expect from years 10 on. Right, because as I've mentioned, I would expect it to be at least a working document that would have to have some fluidity to it. And on the document that I have right now, it is clearly noted that, any numbers that I'm even half comfortable putting on there clearly can't be accurate 20 years out.
Even 10 years out.
So again, I just obviously want to set some expectations, because the more that gets shared, right, that it's not exactly real to some extent the further it gets out.
I believe it is, a little bit important for us to project out, because again, the high school has taken about 15 years, so it is important that we push these forward and say, these are our large capital expenditures. I understand after 10 years, don't disagree in any way that your numbers become infinitely more fuzzy, right? But as they move left, they should tighten up, and then anything inside of 10 years, okay, we have a good idea. Anything inside of 5 years is pretty tight, right? But I think it is important to communicate out to the community as a whole, because we are receiving, some criticism that we are looking for large expenditures. We do spend the majority of the town's budget. I think it is incumbent upon us to project out and say, hey, these are our large capital expenditures that we look at. Because again, a roof replacement on a school is going to be a very large warrant article. So giving that visibility to the town, to capital budget, to Ways and Means, say, hey, this is coming down the road. And once it hits that 10-year threshold, this becomes a much more real thing, but you've had this much time to plan for it, for pacing and spacing, because again, we are having a lot of impact to taxes in the town. So I think it is important that we project out the things we're going to do. And again, it doesn't have to be a wide-tied document. It can be voted on every year, but at some point, we should draw a line in the sand and say, yes, these are things we do for 10, and then these are what we're planning on after that. And they can certainly change anything outside of 10 years. Outside of 5, it probably shouldn't, and then 5 to 10 is where some of that trading will happen to get pacing and spacing to fit things in the budget with the town. So we can do that apportionment allocation exercise where they're understanding what our needs are prior to, and then what we're going to ask for year over year.
Go ahead,
I
Melissa.
mean, I think that the 10 to 20-year section doesn't necessarily have to have bathroom replacements on there, but when we're talking about $100-200 million projects like Pine Glen, Francis Wyman, those bigger ones, turf replacements, anything that you can project, I think that's what we're looking at, 10-20. I don't need to see like cafeteria tables in 2042, but I think at a high level, we should probably have at least some placeholders in the 10 to 20 in the, above $50 million range.
Yeah, for where are them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, that's great feedback.
Yeah, and I think that's where I get into my infrastructure comment of, we know our roofs are 25 years, so we put them in at that 20 to 23-year mark to give ourselves that margin of error for when, we're not going to be in an emergency repair situation, is kind of really where I'm driving with some of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
We had even talked about, as we put our synthetic or a turf field in, we know it has a 10 to 12-year life, so, and that seems like a long time, but it goes pretty quickly, and so just thinking about that sustainability of the projects too, so I think
it helps.
that's kind of how we talk about it, Bob, is sort of how to sustain.
Well, I just want to make sure the document is what you all want, right? Like I said, so if I'm hearing you correctly, large ticket items and predictable items that are large ticket items, the not so predictable items, like not necessarily saying that a boiler is going to be replaced in 8
Right,
years.
'cause you have no way of knowing.
No, right? So, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
And again, working document, I'm happy to update it and share that with you all.
Great, thank you. All right, facilities. Anything on facilities?
The only one thing that I really want to bring up is we have 2 field projects going on, as Jeremy discussed earlier. One's the middle school. The other one is the Francis Wyman baseball field.
How's that coming?
The dugouts were just delivered last week and installed on the slab. So prior to the winter and the snow being on the ground, all the clay was down, the sod was down, the bases were put in, the underground conduit was done, the backstop was put in, some of the fences were put in, and then the concrete slabs for the dugouts were set up. And then we were waiting for the dugouts to be delivered, which happened last week. So now those are dropped onto the concrete slab and bolted into place. Some fencing was tied back into the dugout. So we're in a pretty good place right now with that field. What will have to happen is once some of the ground thaws, there'll be some not concrete work, but like tar work, some pavement on the walkway from the parking lot that ties back into where they tore up some of that walkway that goes back to the community garden. So that will have to be repaved, but I think we're in a great place for spring season.
Good. Okay, anything else to come before the committee?
I have a question,
Sure.
facilities related. Can you just remind me of who's responsible for what in terms of the parking lots, the plowing, and the salting, et cetera? And just,
Sure.
I had concerns at Francis Wyman over Christmas vacation because I think there was, the after-school program was there, and it didn't look like the parking lot was being taken care of. And I just want to make sure we're communicating that Francis Wyman is in use during vacation weeks, et cetera. And if there's an issue, I don't want to have to call you if it's not your responsibility.
I'll say it, but I'll start from a different angle. So we as a school department don't own any trucks or plows, and we don't own any lawnmowers. So we do have snow blowers and we do have shovels. So our maintenance crew and custodial crew, there is no 10-foot rule, but we'll do sidewalks and we'll do doorways to make sure that we have clear access into the buildings. As far as cutting grass and et cetera onto the fields, there's not much work that we're capable of doing with the equipment that we have. We do have some turf equipment, so we will get out onto the fields and blow off the turf, and then we have a scrubbing machine to get some debris off of that. But so typically the The short answer is that when it comes to pavement, it's typically DPW unless they subcontract it out. And then for grass, it's typically rec departments.
DPW is aware of when our buildings need to be open.
DPW is in communication with myself and other members of our staff, and we talk about when snowstorms are going to happen, when buildings are open, even for tomorrow with what may or may not come in tomorrow's storm. We'll be communicating with them early in the morning, 4 o'clock, and so we'll be continuing to have these conversations. Our custodial staff, same exact thing. We'll get the messages as well, too, after 4. They already know to keep their phones on and be ready for the call that if school is on and we have.
School's on, yeah.
Right, so,
I don't think that
Okay.
quarter inch is going to be too crazy.
so,
If there is nothing else to come before the committee, we can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Don't believe anyone's opposed. Thank you, everyone, and good night.